Welcome to the Gracie Academy. Hidong Gracie, Henry Gracie. We are here to discuss Gracie Survival Tactics, our specialized course for military and law enforcement professionals. After the UFC blew up in 1993, the very high-ranking military officials contacted our family, requested our assistance in developing a hand-to-hand combat program that would prepare soldiers for that unarmed combat possibility in the absolute least amount of time possible. We did that. Gracie Combatives was the beginning. Soon after, the law enforcement community jumped on board and said, wait a minute, we want something similar for the law enforcement, line of work. And we did it. Gracie Survival Tactics. 5 days, instructor certification program, 1 week course. These military and law enforcement professionals come from around the world, participate, learn how to teach this stuff, then they go back and teach it to their colleagues. But we've had a challenge, you guys. We've had a challenge up until now because in order for someone to come out to do our course, usually the organization, the military branch, or the police department funds the participation and they send out a representative to learn how to teach this stuff and they bring them back. But there are hundreds of thousands of military and law enforcement professionals out there who are parts of organizations, who are members of organizations and departments who have not had an instructor certified, let's say, and therefore they can't access this life-saving information just because their department or organization hasn't sent someone to get certified. And that troubles us because they want to learn the information, they just can't get out here because of the travel, the time, and all of that to make it happen, so it's sad they don't have access to the information.
For the first time ever, what have we done?
Digitally captured the entire GST, Gracie Survival Tactics program, all 23 lessons in 100% detail, so that they could be made available online through gracieuniversity.com in a password-protected section just for military and law enforcement professionals.
So you can get this. If your department is not willing to send you, you can
still learn it.
Get it online.
You can still learn it.
Now, all of our GST certified instructors who have been teaching this at their departments or at their military bases, they might have forgotten a detail here and there. So if you're teaching it in 3 months down the road, you need to remember something, you have free access.
So if you do the GST live full instructor certification course, you get online access for free. If not, you can purchase it and still learn the techniques from anywhere in the world for the first time ever. Now, for those of you who have no idea what the GST program is, and a lot of people often ask us, how is GST different from Gracie Jiu-Jitsu standard curriculum for the people? And it is so different. It's ridiculous. So to give you guys a little understanding of the difference, I think we can share with them kind of the GST truths or the pillars of understanding on which the GST program has been built and refined over the last 15 plus years. GST truth number 1, the bad guy always has the ambush advantage. GST truth number 2, the military or law enforcement professional should never grapple with the suspect or enemy. And GST truth number 3, in the street fight, there is no tap out. Doesn't exist. Let's talk about ambush advantage. The bad guy always has the ambush advantage. How come?
Because they know when they're going to attack and the professional has no idea.
Right. Here's this guy who has 3 or 4 warrants out for his arrest, gets pulled over, totally compliant, acting, yes officer, hands in the hood, oh great, you want my ID, whatever, 100% compliant, but he knows he has the warrants out for his arrest, and it's just a matter of time before the officer realizes that that guy feigns compliance, and then suddenly out of no warning, no notice, rushes the officer, ambushes him or her, and we've seen it too many times. I mean, the videos are out there, and it's a serious threat that faces military and law enforcement professionals every day they go to work.
This is not like professional fighting. You have 2 people 10 feet apart from each other, a referee in the middle saying, okay, go. That's not how it works.
No.
It's completely different. So that's the sportive aspect of Jiu-Jitsu is very much like that.
Right.
We're squared off.
Yeah, there's no start, there's no official go time, and the most important thing is, why don't you see ever in a physical assault on a military or law enforcement professional, why don't you ever see them trading punches? I'll throw 2 punches, you throw 2 punches. I'll throw 2 punches, you throw 2 punches, like you would see in a MMA match. Why don't you ever see that?
Because that will possibly allow the officer to create distance to get away and then access all the weapons. And the attacker, the suspect, knows this.
Yes.
The suspect has to come in and overwhelm the officer.
Yeah, every year over 50,000 assaults take place on law enforcement officers in their line of work. And over 80% of them are done without weapons. These are unarmed. Most attacks on law enforcement officers are unarmed attacks. And they're successful because most of them follow the same 3-phase plan of attack.
ambush plan of attack on the officer. Phase 1, the ambush, the surprise entry, the surprise initial barrage of attack, punches, whatever it might be, the ambush. Phase 2, the overwhelm. The bad guy knows that they must overwhelm the officer so much that the officer can't even breathe and have a chance to get to their weapons, because if they can, they'll use them. The bad guy knows that, so they overwhelm. And phase 3, incapacitate. The bad guy has to either knock the officer out or get a hold of his or her gun and shoot him. They have to, in order to guarantee their free escape. And that's why, from what I've heard, over 40% of law enforcement professionals who are shot in the line of duty are shot with their own weapons. So in the GST program, we acknowledge this inevitable reality that when the attack happens on a law enforcement or military professional in this close proximity, it's never with warning. Hey, we want to fight? Okay, hands up, on your mark, get set, go. It doesn't exist. It's a surprise attack, to say the least, and it doesn't give the officer the chance to access their weapons or their tools like they would like to. And we accept that, and we train that in the GST program, these surprise attacks.
And most officers, most law enforcement professionals talk about the reactionary gap.
Right.
But it's tough to stay outside of this gap because you have to talk to the suspect, you gotta take documentation, you gotta do all these things.
Right.
And now, of course, when I'm taking this document or I'm handing back the license, I'm in punch range.
So reactionary gap is great, but as soon as you put yourself within touching or document transfer range, that's ambush range. And you don't have time to react with your weapons at that point. You have to be ready. GST truth number 2. Never by choice should a military or law enforcement professional grapple with the suspect or enemy. Of course not. They have a belt full of potentially dangerous weapons for either person. And if you're grappling, your gun, your taser, your pepper spray, whatever you have, knife, it's within range to be grappled from you. So why would anyone ever by choice grapple with the bad guy? No.
Step away and use all those cool tools.
Military and law enforcement professionals do not get paid to fight fair. They get paid to enforce the law, do what's right, and go home at the end of the day safely. So to think I'm going to grapple in a fair fight doesn't exist in that line of work. And we get that. So people always say, well, if you're learning jiu-jitsu, you're encouraging the grapple. No! The reason the law enforcement organizations and military branches that bring us in, the reason they bring us in is not to encourage a grapple with the enemy, it's to teach them what they need to know to disengage from that grapple.
Yeah, you can't defend yourself in a grappling situation if you don't understand it.
You have to understand. There are 3 objectives that any law enforcement or military professional must be capable of accomplishing when the ambush takes place. Number 1, neutralize the initial threat. That initial barrage of punches, kicks, pokes, elbows, whatever that is, standing or on the ground, neutralize the initial threat.
Which are usually strikes.
Yes.
So don't get knocked out.
Right. If the guy pulls out a gun, shoot him. But if he rushes you with punches, number 1 is neutralize that initial threat, the strikes. Number 2, retain control of your weapons. Huge consideration in the grapple in the close quarter situation. And number 3, once those 2 objectives are met, achieve a position of advantage from where you can make the logical conclusion. Maybe it is to, take them down and handcuff them. Maybe it is to use your weapons, primary, secondary weapons, other force options, whatever it may be. But get to a position of advantage where you can have that breathing space to make the right decision. Every technique we teach in the fight is to break free. So learn how to grapple so you don't have to. Clear?
Clear.
Never grapple with the bad guy. And number 3, GST truth number 3. In the street fight, there is no tap out. What is tap out? Catch me in an arm lock. Tap, okay, you're gonna let go and keep fighting? Of course not.
The guy's arm breaks.
Even if you break,
He still has one other arm to keep
guys
attacking
on
you.
PCP, guys get shot 3, 4, 5 times and keep fighting. So here's our belief. The traditional jiu-jitsu mindset that you just tap someone out doesn't apply when it's a fight for your life in the law enforcement military field. If it doesn't end with you neutralizing the threat and having the bad guy in handcuffs, it shouldn't be practiced. Because you're developing false confidence ultimately, and you're wasting your training time.
So we have techniques for all of our submissions to transition into a handcuffing technique.
Exactly. Every submission, the few submissions that we do teach, because most of what we teach is neutralize the threat, disengage, control your firearm, retain control of your weapons in the scramble. From every position, retain control. Most of what we teach is to disengage. But the few submissions we do teach to incapacitate the opponent, every one of them transitions into a handcuffing technique tightly to make sure that the victory is ultimately achieved, and that is neutralizing the threat and gaining full control of the suspect or the enemy. In the street fight, there is no tap out. There is no tap out. I think they get it.
They get it.
Now, here's the key. Gracie Survival Tactics, 23 lessons. Each has various slices, all modified for military and law enforcement use. Survival, neutralize, retain, achieve, and weapon retention, and handcuffing techniques. Great. 23 techniques, the full week-long instructor certification program. Wonderful. One concern, common question, problem we often get from our course participants, they say, Hito and Henner, this is great. These 23 lessons are incredible information, all life-saving techniques. But most of the time, we're only given 4, maybe 8 hours a year to teach our colleagues defensive tactics or hand-to-hand combat training, you know? We only get 4 to 6 hours, 4 to 8 hours a year to teach them. So we can't teach them 23 techniques. What do? In the GST program, not only do we give the full 23 lesson program, but at the end of that program, including in the online version, Hito and I break down what we believe should be the absolute core techniques someone in that line of work has to learn if they only have 4 hours of training. Can you revolutionize a police officer's, let's say, self-defense capability in 4 hours? Hito and Gracie, can you?
Of course. These 4 techniques right here are 100% survival.
100%.
They're the 4 techniques that if we could only know 4 techniques and go spend the rest of our lives
and what do you think those
somewhere else?
What do you think they're
all
based
we
on?
need.
What do you think they're based on? These techniques, these strategies, these bottom 100% most important ones. They're based on the threat scenarios, the ambush threat scenarios that have proven to be the most common and most problematic based on 15 years of practicing and getting feedback, the ones that have happened the most. So the 23 lessons is to give an instructor who's teaching this program the ability to say, well, we're going to teach these 4 or 5 right here, but let's add 3 or 4 more and let's pile them in all together. And that'll be the course that I do for my organization, since this is our line of work and this is what we do. So it depends. Are you working in airplanes? Are you working in pairs? Are you working solo? Are you out in the field on the border patrol 15 miles from their next backup agent? So it depends on your line of work, what moves become most important. But one thing is certain, all 23 lessons, 100% military and law enforcement friendly, and life-saving. All are there because they've proven to save lives over the years we've been teaching this program. We've had incredible feedback as well.
They want to learn. Now they want to learn. What they got to do? They like it, okay? They're excited now.
You have 2 options, my friends. If you're active duty, military, or law enforcement, you can either come to the Gracie Academy or one of our satellite schools when we host the 5-day instructor certification program. You can do that and get certified and then go teach your colleagues back home.
GracieSurvivalTactics.com will have the locations
and the schedule, the upcoming course dates. Now, we understand that many organizations are stuck in their old ways. A lot of organizations are like, no, if it has to do with jiu-jitsu, forget about it. If it has to do with any ground tactics, forget about it.
or we have no fun.
Because they don't understand the GST truths. You would never want to grapple with a bad guy, and you can't defend against that which you don't understand. So therefore, you have to break free and get to your feet. They don't understand that you need to learn grappling to get out of grapple. Separate issue. Sometimes the chief is like just too stuck in his ways. So if your chief won't finance your participation in this course, how else are you going to get access to it?
GracieUniversity.com/GST.
And you can learn more about accessing the program online. Of course, this is not open to the public. The online GST program is 100% for military and law enforcement professionals. So you'll be asked to input some information regarding your active duty status. We'll verify your status as that professional, and then you'll be granted access through Gracie University. You can access that information, learn it, maybe share it with your buddies. But to become a certified instructor and to be fully capable of teaching this to your colleagues, you would then eventually want to participate in the live course here or one of the ones we hold externally.
So they could already have the majority of the information understood.
Yes.
And then one day find time and get the clearance to come here and do the course, and they're already ahead of the game.
And absolutely, 100% recommended. And a couple side notes. If a technique gets modified or updated, we're going to update it online as well. So if you have the course and we change 2 slices, next week when the new GST, or we get some feedback from a military law enforcement professional who uses these techniques, we modify, we update, goes to the web, and guess what? You have full access.
You just said it right there. When we get feedback, we modify. So we've been doing jiu-jitsu for like 70, 80 years. So what that means is that it hasn't stopped modifying for those 70, 80 years. And even today, when you give us your feedback, we really appreciate it. So
absolutely,
keep it up.
You guys, we'll see you online, or we'll see you here at the Gracie Academy, Gracie Survival Tactics. It's saving lives. And we'll see you on the other side. Keep it real.